All right. This story was told by a person who heard it from someone who heard it from the original person. And I'm not sure if the one that actually told the story was labeled Groner, the Rebbe's secretary, or not. I didn't exactly get this, but all these sources are very reliable. So maybe I'll even tell you two stories, but we'll see. This story is okay. The Rebbe, Lubavitcher Rebbe, had tremendous powers, tremendous spiritual powers that are completely incomprehensible. And I'll start it by just one little story. There was a wonderful man that lived in Crown Heights. His name was Rabbi Zurkin. He passed away just a couple of years ago. And I used to talk to him sometimes. And so he told me a story that a friend of his went in front of the Lubavitcher Rebbe. This must have been 60, 70 years ago. When it was 60 years ago. He went in front of the Lubavitcher Rebbe with a list of all of his children. And he wanted a blessing for all of them. Now, the Rebbe sees hundreds of people every day. Would see people would come in with telephone calls and letters. Anyway, he went into the Rebbe and he gave the Rebbe a list of all of his children that the Rebbe should bless them. The Rebbe picked out one of the children and said, what is her, the man was from, what is her French name? What is her French name? Let's say in Hebrew, her name was Rachel. And so the Rebbe said, oh, but what is her French name? So he was very surprised. So he said, in French, her name in French is Rochelle or whatever. The Rebbe said, oh, and he gave her a blessing. So he came back home and he told his wife the strange thing. And they checked, they checked why, and they remembered that this daughter had been adopted. They adopted her, but she was adopted from a regular, reliable institution, and they went to the institution, and they checked up, and they discovered that the mother of this girl was not Jewish. She had a conversion, but it was not a proper conversion. And so the girl got converted, but the Rebbe somehow, just for seeing her name, knew there was something wrong with this. Okay, now the story I wanted to tell you. How the Rebbe could possibly know a thing like that, I don't know. Here's the story. There was a man that had lost, the Rebbe became Rebbe in 1950. And so he inherited all these survivors, Holocaust survivors. The Holocaust ended in 1945, and there was all these Holocaust survivors that came to America. So there was one person that, people were very confused, people were very broken, people were very, there was, like Rabbi Mangel, there's a rabbi in Crown Heights, that he was in the Holocaust. He was a young man. And he says, he's asked, where was God in the Holocaust? He said, any person that's alive from the Holocaust is a testimony that God was there, because it was impossible. They went days without eating, and they had no clothes in the middle of the winter. They were working in just pajamas outside and below zero. It's just a miracle that anybody survived. Okay, so anyway, so this fellow, he got separated from his wife and his daughters. I guess he had a wife and a daughter, two daughters, and a son. So he went back to France. He got separated and he got saved. He went to America, but he went back to France, to the city where they used to live, and he was searching for his wife and his kids to find out if they were still alive. He was searching, and they brought up all these excuse me, all the back papers and everything, and to see where she had been. Anyway, after all of his searching, so he went into this one big office, and they said that the Germans burned all the papers, that they had, and to destroy any evidence. And it's not clear where his wife and his children are, and they must have been killed. They must have. So he was totally broken, and he was coming down the steps of this, huge office or whatever his institution, and he was, just totally depressed, and he stopped. He was crying. So a young religious man said to him, "Excuse me, so what are you crying about?" He says, "It's not going to help if I tell you, because I lost everything." He said, so this young Jewish man said, religious man said, "Listen, it says that if you have a problem, you should talk about it. You should speak, say it out." So he says, "What's it going to help?" He says, "Okay, I'll tell you. I lost my wife, my children. I don't know where they are." So the young man said, "Other people lost their families also. You can." He said, "No. I loved my family so much, and now I'm broken, and the things that I saw, and I just don't want to go on living." So he said, "Well, what is your wife's name?" This young Jewish man said, "What is your wife's name?" So he said, "What is it going to help? What is it going to help? Please leave me alone. I have enough trouble." So he said, "What do you want to feel bad? So you can feel bad, another 10 minutes. No, just tell me what's her name. It's not going to hurt." So he said, "My wife's name is like this. And the three children, or the two children, their names are like this." So he said, the young man, he looked up, and he was quiet for a while. And he said, "Your wife is dead. And so are your children. But your daughter is living in Hungary as a non-Jew. She's married to a non-Jew. And she's living in such and such a town. And you can go there and look for her. Her name is, you'll find her there." And the person, he had nothing better to do. And the person said it with such certainty. He went and he found his daughter. And later on, he saw pictures that person was the Lubavitcher Rebbe. The Rebbe went to France to get his mother. He went in the 40s. The Rebbe went to France to escort his mother from France. She came from Russia. They paid money after her husband passed away, the Rebbe's father. So eventually she came to France, and from France, they traveled. When the Rebbe was in France, this whole story happened. So the Rebbe had somehow or other powers to help Jews, which were totally above nature. And he helped this Jew, and he told him where his daughter was and saved the daughter. That's who the Rebbe is. At least that's things the Rebbe did. What the Rebbe is, we have absolutely no idea. Have a good day with Mashiach now. God willing, meet you tomorrow at 8:15.